The house on Crimson Lane had been empty for years before Naomi Sullivan moved in. It sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac in a small New Hampshire town, surrounded by old oaks and the faint hum of cicadas at dusk, the kind of place neighbors watched from their porches but never visited. Naomi didn't mind. She wanted silence. She wanted distance. She wanted to disappear. People in town didn't know much about her, only that she was new, quiet, and always wore long sleeves, even in the summer. Her smile was polite but guarded, the kind that hides 100 secrets. But the truth was, Naomi wasn't running from a place. She was running from a man. His name was Eric Dunn, a wealthy contractor from Boston. Charming, ambitious, and quick with a joke. When they first met at a real estate auction, he seemed like every woman's dream, attentive, protective, endlessly confident. But charm can be a disguise. At first, it was the little things: how he'd insist on picking out her clothes, how he'd get angry if she didn't answer texts immediately. He'd apologize later, buy her flowers, promise it was only because he loved her too much. Love. That was always his word for it, until the day it stopped being love and became control. He installed tracking apps on her phone, convinced her to quit her job, and slowly isolated her from everyone she knew. She didn't even realize she'd lost herself until one night, during an argument, he slapped her across the face. It wasn't hard enough to leave a bruise, not at first, but it was hard enough to leave a mark that never faded. After that, Naomi planned her escape quietly. She waited, watched, and when he left for a business trip, she took her chance. She drove for 10 hours straight and never looked back. For months, she thought she was free. But monsters don't disappear when you stop looking. They just wait. It began with a text message. Unknown number. You can't hide from me forever, Naomi. She dropped the phone. Her hands trembled. It had been nearly a year. She'd changed her number, her job, even her hair color. How had he found her? A few nights later, she woke to the sound of her front porch creaking. When she looked out the window, there was no one there, just the faint sway of the porch swing in the wind. She told herself she was imagining things, but she started hearing it again. Every night. Same time, same sound. Then came the flowers. A bouquet left on her doorstep, tied with a red ribbon, no note, no name. Her stomach turned when she realized what kind they were. White lilies. Eric's favorite. The police brushed it off. Could be kids, could be a delivery mix-up, but Naomi knew better. She started sleeping with the lights on. She locked every window, double-bolted every door. And yet, one night, she heard her name whispered from the hallway. When she stepped out of bed, her heart stopped. There was a shape at the end of the hall, tall, still, almost human. Then it was gone. She called 911, crying, shaking. By the time the officers arrived, the figure had vanished. They searched the house, found nothing. One of them, a young rookie, tried to comfort her. If someone's bothering you, we'll find out who. Just try to rest, but the look in his eyes said what his words didn't. He thought she was paranoid. She wasn't. 2 weeks later, she came home to find her back door open. Inside, her walls were lined with printed photos, pictures of her sleeping, walking to her car, sitting on the porch. Someone had been inside, watching her. Her chest tightened as she noticed the handwriting on one of the photos. I told you I'd find you. Naomi didn't remember grabbing the gun. She didn't remember driving to the police station. She only remembered the officer telling her she didn't have enough evidence for a restraining order. That night, she packed a bag. But as she reached for her keys, headlights filled her window. A car pulled into the driveway. Eric stepped out. He looked older, thinner, but the smile was the same. The smile that once made her feel safe. Naomi, he said, hands out like a priest blessing a sinner. You didn't think I'd let you leave me like that, did you? She backed away. Don't come near me. He took another step. You owe me. After everything I did for you. Her hand trembled as she reached for the gun in her purse. He laughed. You won't shoot me. You never had the courage. But fear, once pushed too far, turns into something else. There was a flash. A single deafening sound that seemed to split the night in half. Eric staggered, disbelief frozen on his face. Then he fell. Naomi dropped the gun, sobbing. I didn't want to. I just wanted you to stop. When the police arrived, she was sitting on the porch steps, still shaking, her dress soaked with rain. At first, they treated it as self-defense. But as detectives dug deeper, something strange emerged. Her neighbor, an elderly man, said he'd seen no car in the driveway that night, only Naomi talking to herself on the porch. The flowers? No fingerprints. The texts? traced to a disconnected prepaid phone. And the photos? They couldn't find any camera devices in her house. The story began to crumble. Her lawyer claimed trauma that she'd lived in such constant fear that she truly believed he was there. The prosecution claimed it was guilt that she'd lured him there, shot him, and made up the stalking to cover her tracks. No one could prove which was true. All anyone knew was that Eric Dunn was dead, and Naomi Sullivan's mind had long since fractured. At trial, she said very little, but during sentencing, she looked straight at the jury and said quietly, "You don't understand. He was already in the house." They sentenced her to 20 years. The house on Crimson Lane was sealed off, later sold at auction. The new owners didn't stay long. They said the lights kept turning on at night, and sometimes they'd wake up to the faint sound of footsteps pacing the hall. And every few months, someone still leaves a single white lily on the front porch. No note, no signature, just a whisper in the dark, "You can't hide from me forever."